The plane was quiet, cruising high above the clouds, when something unexpected changed everything. In seat 8A, a tired single dad slept with his head tilted toward the window, unaware that in just a few minutes, every life on board would depend on him. No one knew who he really was. No one imagined that the calm, ordinary man resting in that seat carried a past shaped by courage, loss, and a kindness that would soon touch everyone on that flight. Before we continue, if you enjoy real stories that remind us of humanity, compassion, and second chances, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. This is Kindness Diaries, a place where small acts of kindness create life-changing moments. The flight was a full one, headed across the country on a clear afternoon. Families were returning home, business travelers typed on laptops, and a few kids pressed their faces to the windows, amazed by the endless blue sky. In seat 8A sat Marcus Hill, a single father of one, traveling back home after visiting his mother. Marcus looked like many other passengers. He wore a simple hoodie, worn sneakers, and carried an old backpack tucked under the seat. Dark circles rested under his eyes. He hadn't slept much lately. Being a single dad meant late nights, early mornings, and constant worry. His 8-year-old son, Tyler, was the center of his world. Every choice Marcus made was for him. As the plane hummed steadily, Marcus finally drifted into a deep sleep. It was the kind of sleep only exhaustion brings, when your body finally gives up. He dreamed of Tyler's laugh, of helping with homework, of the promise he made to always be there. Suddenly, the smooth rhythm of the flight changed. There was a strange vibration, subtle but unsettling. A few passengers glanced around. The flight attendants exchanged quick looks. Somewhere near the front of the plane, a quiet alarm sounded. Minutes later, the captain's voice came over the speaker, calm but serious. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We are experiencing a technical issue. Please remain seated and calm." The cabin fell silent. People held their breath. Parents reached for their children's hands. A woman whispered a prayer under her breath. Then the captain spoke again, slower this time. "If there are any trained combat pilots or military flight personnel on board, please identify yourselves to a flight attendant immediately." A ripple of fear passed through the cabin. A combat pilot? On a commercial flight? Marcus stirred as the announcement echoed. His eyes opened slowly. For a moment, he thought he was still dreaming. Then he saw the faces around him. Pale. Frozen. Afraid. His heart began to race. Marcus hadn't worn a uniform in years. He didn't talk about that part of his life anymore. But once, long ago, before loss reshaped everything, he had flown fighter jets for the U.S. Air Force. He had completed hundreds of hours in high-pressure situations. He knew what those words meant. And he knew what staying silent could cost. Marcus thought of Tyler. He thought of the promise he made to come home safe. He also thought of the people around him, strangers whose lives were suddenly connected to his. He raised his hand. "I'm a former combat pilot," he said quietly to the flight attendant passing by. "How can I help?" The attendant's eyes widened, then filled with relief. She nodded and asked him to follow her. As Marcus stood, a woman nearby grabbed his sleeve. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice shaking. He offered a small, reassuring smile. "We're going to be okay." Walking toward the cockpit, Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Fear was there, but something stronger pushed it aside. Purpose. Inside the cockpit, the captain explained the situation. A malfunction had affected part of the flight control system. They were still flying, but landing would be risky. Having someone with Marcus's experience could make a difference. Marcus didn't hesitate. He stepped in, listening carefully, offering calm suggestions, working alongside the crew. There was no panic in his voice. Just steady focus and teamwork. Back in the cabin, passengers waited in tense silence. Some cried softly. Some held hands. Some stared straight ahead, whispering names of people they loved. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, the plane began its descent. There were a few jolts, a sharp turn, a breathless moment when the wheels touched the runway. Then, stillness. And then applause erupted. People cried openly now. strangers hugged. The captain's voice came back, filled with emotion. Ladies and gentlemen, we've landed safely. Thank you for your cooperation. And a special thanks to a passenger who stepped forward when we needed him most. Marcus returned to his seat quietly, hoping not to draw attention. But people noticed. A man across the aisle nodded with respect. A mother mouthed, "Thank you." The woman who grabbed his sleeve earlier smiled through tears. As passengers exited the plane, many stopped to shake Marcus's hand. Some hugged him. One little boy looked up at him and said, "You're a hero." Marcus knelt down and replied softly, "No, buddy. I just helped." Later that night, Marcus called Tyler. "Hey champ," he said, his voice warm. "Did you land yet, Dad?" Tyler asked. "I did," Marcus replied, smiling. "And I can't wait to see you." As he hung up, Marcus realized something powerful. Kindness isn't always loud. Sometimes it's simply choosing to stand up when others need you, even when you're tired, even when you're afraid. That day, a single dad in seat 8A reminded everyone on that plane that courage and kindness often look like ordinary people doing extraordinary things. If this story touched your heart, let it remind you that kindness matters. You never know when your presence, your skills, or your compassion might change someone's life. Let's carry that kindness forward, one small act at a time.